Warning. Do not watch on an empty stomach and make sure your fridge is well stocked. Elena, ever the observer, commented, why not? Among elves, a 13-year difference is considered an age-matched relationship. Allison explained, you can't view this through the lens of elf lifespans. Humans live much shorter lives than elves, so 13 years is quite significant. Miltine, however, was resolute. It doesn't matter. I've already made my decision. I left the mercenary group. If you won't let me work here, I'll starve on the streets. Rurin was intrigued. That enthusiasm. I like you. Age doesn't matter. You're hired, right now. It seemed Rurin was trying to prove that a 700-year age gap between her and Ellison wasn't a problem. Miltine was delighted at the offer. But Ellison spoke up. I appreciate that you and Mr. Ment want to work here, but we haven't heard his opinion on the matter. Miltine blushed. That's true. I haven't asked for his opinion yet. I plan to tell him after I milked a jug. The senior is the one who taught me how to wield a sword, from how to hold it to how to maintain it. Working on the pasture is tough, but I want to learn how to handle it on my own. Then I want to show him how things are done here. Already thinking about these things before even being hired, impressive. This touching story of love deeply moved Elena. How wonderful. Such determination. Such a beautiful longing. But, maybe the wording is a bit off. After a brief pause, Ellison smiled. When you get that first jug of milk. Ah, I just thought of a perfect dish for when we visit Mr. Ment. I'm looking forward to working with you. And so, the restaurant staff grew by one. The next day, Miltine arrived early, eager to work. Her first task was to lead the Baranuric out so they could graze. Miltine was excited and approached the first Baranuric carefully. She was surprised at how obedient the Baranuric were. I don't know what magic they used, but the Baranuric are incredibly well behaved. There shouldn't be any problems. But things weren't that easy. The Baranuric didn't attack proactively, but even a gentle push was enough to knock Miltine to the ground. Despite using various methods, all Miltine received was their abuse. After struggling to get the Baranuric to the pasture, Ellison reluctantly gave her another far from easy task. Wild Baranuric are very active, so their hooves don't need trimming. But since these are domesticated, you need to check their hooves regularly. And of course, Miltine was repeatedly kicked away. The next day, while Miltine was preparing the hay for the end of the day, the Baranuric swarmed around her. Move out of the way. The fresh grass is over there. And so Miltine was kicked away once again. A few days later, Miltine, dirty and exhausted, sat on the ground lamenting. I'm completely worn out. Nothing has gone well. Herding cows, trimming hooves. I haven't even milked yet. At first, I was so confident, but what am I doing now? What if I get fired before I can work with my mentor? As if understanding Miltine's distress, the Baranuric came over to comfort her. They seemed to understand and actively wanted to be milked. And so Miltine cheerfully carried the first bucket of milk to show Ellison. Boss, I did it. I did it. I milked the cows. This exceeded Ellison's expectations, as he thought it would take about a week to get any milk. Receiving the milk bucket, Ellison gave a bright smile. Good job. Let's get ready. There's a clean set of clothes over there. Go change. Miltine didn't understand and asked. What are we preparing for? Ellison replied. Of course. It's a special dish for Mr. Ment. A super cheesy pizza. First, pasteurize the milk at a low temperature for 30 minutes. Next, reduce the heat and add vinegar to curdle the milk. Once the milk curdles, scoop out the curds and leave the whey behind. After putting it in brine, knead the curd right after soaking it in warm water. Throughout this process, any remaining air and whey will be removed. And once you mold it, we have mozzarella cheese. Seeing this strange item, Miltine couldn't help but wonder. Is this cheese? It looks different from the cheese I know. Ellison explained. It's just a different type of cheese. We'll place it on top of the bread and bake it. You need a special gift when confessing. Right? Mr. Ment really loves food. So this will be a fitting gift. Don't you think? Mentioning a confession, Miltine blushed shyly. Confess? I haven't even thought about that. No, this could be my chance. Ellison, kneading the dough, boasted. Trust me, When I was young, many women pursued me. Why does this sound so unconvincing? Seeing this, Miltine bashfully asked, so you have a lot of dating experience? Ellison casually replied that he didn't date at all, which almost made Miltine punch him. Ellison then brought the pizza and continued. However, there's one thing I know for sure. Sincerity always works. So put your sincerity, Miltine, into this dish. Mr. Ment will surely realize it. Love experts always speak with such wisdom. After the preparations were complete, everyone went to Mr. Ment's house to check on his health, while Miltine nervously held the pizza outside. What will her decision be? After a while, Ellison introduced Elena. This is Ms. Elena, who runs a clinic. Ment was very surprised by everyone's visit. Oh, the famous elf? But how did you all know? You couldn't have known unless you were with the mercenary group. At that moment, Miltine blushed as she stepped in. Senior, how are you feeling? Now, Ment understood the reason. Afterward, Elena used healing magic on Ment's leg. Although it couldn't fully heal, she would help with physical therapy. Ment then moved closer to Miltine. Oh, I thought you had something to say? Miltine blushed deeply, sweating all over. This is a big deal. It's more embarrassing than I thought. The others were expecting a romantic confession. But Miltine changed the subject. You're very hungry, right? Let's eat first and then talk. Miltine was shaking. Calm down. As I was told, sincerity always works. And I will express my sincerity through the food. It turned out Miltine had arranged the sausages on the pizza in the shape of a heart. But Ment still didn't understand. Seeing this, Miltine explained, this dish is called pizza. I made it myself. Ellison also helped a lot. It looks nice, doesn't it? It looks like, right. At the crucial moment, Ment couldn't resist reaching out. Let's give it a try. Shall we? Poor Miltine was left crying silently. But upon discovering that the gooey substance on the pizza was cheese, Ment was amazed. He had thought cheese was the smelly stuff sold at the market corner. But that's simply curdled milk. After taking a bite, Ment was immediately captivated by the taste. This chewy flavor and texture are delicious. Everyone should try it too. So the plan to confess through food was a complete failure. Miltine could only eat in tears. After finishing the pizza, Ment happily said, Miltine, I never thought you could cook so well. How did you manage that? Miltine then seriously asked, Senior, have you decided what you'll do in the future? Ment didn't understand what was happening and the atmosphere became tense. Why? I'll think about it slowly. Why don't you come and work with me at ELL's pasture? Ment was quite surprised at this news. ELL's pasture? You have a pasture? Ellison replied with a smile. Just recently. And I would be honored to have you work with me. Miltine is also working for me. Ment was amazed. She's working there already? What about the mercenary group? Miltine turned away, too embarrassed to look Ment in the eye. She summoned all her courage and shouted, I left right after you. In the future, I want to be by your side. Ment seemed to understand something and accepted the job at the pasture. Everyone was thrilled, especially Miltine, but it turned out that Ment didn't understand anything. I'm glad you've come to work at the pasture. At least now you can freely fall in love. Right? I don't think you could have dated anyone while being a mercenary. Now that you're grown up, you should try dating a few guys. I think I owe L for this one. When can I start working? Words fail me, Ellison responded. Right after you recover. Take some time to rest. He felt very sorry. Miltine, I'm sorry. I thought it would work. In the end, sincerity didn't work. Miltine thought, I shouldn't have listened to relationship advice from people who've never had a partner. On the way back, Ellison comforted her. Miltine, please don't be too heartbroken. You two will work together at the pasture. Miltine forced a smile. I'm not heartbroken. There will be many opportunities in the future. As I said, I'm happy to work with everyone. I'm off now. See you later, boss. Even though Miltine said that, she couldn't help but cry as she walked. She was determined not to give up. No matter what happened, the power of love is truly strong. The three gossipers could only shake their heads in dismay, unable to offer any help. Meanwhile, Ment sat by the dim light, sighing deeply. What should I do? It seemed Ment had realized everything from the beginning. He just didn't want to face this truth. The next day, Crown Prince Leon of the Luvan Empire visited the place. Although he smiled, he showed contempt. So peaceful. This place is so ugly. When he saw two beautiful girls standing by the roadside, he didn't hesitate to approach them and invite them both to his room tonight. What a scumbag. Duke Porgo Tamurin saw this and asked the great mage Medran what the crown prince was doing. He wants those two girls to come to the castle tonight. Porgo's face suddenly became extremely dangerous. This is a royal meeting. So rude. Well, let them handle it themselves. I'm tired of looking after the crown prince. Meanwhile, Diren was preparing to meet the crown prince. Since his mother wasn't well, he had to go alone. Seeing him worried, the butler encouraged him. After all that has happened lately, you have become a true lord. And every word you say will represent Grake. Please don't forget that. Entering the room, with the crown prince and Porgo present, made Diren a little nervous. Father, please grant me your wisdom. Sitting down at the table, Porgo inquired. Count Grake's health condition hasn't improved. Has it? Mentioning this, Diren felt a little sad. Yes, my father is still bedridden. Leon spoke up. That's unfortunate. If I recall correctly, Count Grake is under Duke Saren. Diren responded. That's true, but it's been a long time since they last spoke. I haven't met him either. He was trying not to say anything wrong that could give them leverage. Leon continued. I suppose so. I've heard Duke Saren isn't doing well either. Porgo immediately chimed in. Then isn't it time for you to change your allegiance? I mean, you should side with me. That way, this territory will receive solid protection. And your position won't be shaken anymore. Don't you think so? Diren thought carefully before replying. That's a very difficult issue to answer immediately. He understood clearly that he shouldn't make any hasty decisions in this sensitive period. Porgo didn't stop there, adding, then let's talk about something else first. With large-scale irrigation and the neighboring kingdom's civil war, many things are happening, which means that Grake, like other territories, will have to pay more taxes. Diren immediately froze. Is that an official request from the Central Royal Authority? Porgo smiled slyly. Does that really matter? Managing the territory is the Count's responsibility. Of course, if you accept my earlier proposal, this issue will be reconsidered. So, even this is hard for you to answer? A Count always has to make choices. Whether it's good or bad, you have to make a decision because doing nothing isn't an option. So what will you decide? Porgo was like a venomous snake tightening its grip on the inexperienced Diren. If nothing is done, Grake will be ruthlessly torn apart by the power struggles. With no other choice, Diren shouted, all right, I'll host a great banquet and then give you my answer. Porgo, thinking, there's nothing delicious in this backwater place, was about to refuse. At this point, Leon interjected, sounds good, just in time. I need something to entertain me until dinner. So, can you bring out a dish that can satisfy me? I'm sick of the dishes in the royal palace. Diren could only force a smile. Of course, because in Grake there is an excellent restaurant. Now, he could only rely on his self-proclaimed mentor, Ellison. At the restaurant, Ellison was serving lunch to his staff. Today's menu had fried rice. And just looking at it made their mouths water. Before eating, Rurin complained, the food I'll eat is decreasing. Truly a gluttonous dragon. Fortunately, Ellison had made plenty, so she could have another plate if she wanted. Actually, if we had it all, our Ellison would cook another dish for this girl to eat right away. What's so special about love? At that moment, the door was kicked open, and a group of knights walked in. You're the owner of this restaurant, right? They didn't know they had messed with the wrong person. Ellison fearlessly stepped forward. Yes. But what is this about? And you, put away your sword. The knight still didn't back down. Who do you think you're ordering around? You've recognized who we are, haven't you? Ellison replied. I know you're members of the Order of the Origin. Meanwhile, Rurin was still focused on eating. She needed to eat quickly to ask for another plate. But she still paid attention to the conversation. What's happening? Ellison assured her that he would handle it. So there was no need to worry. And again, can you put your sword down? People are eating. The knight put his sword to Ellison's neck and threatened. You don't seem to understand the current situation. Huh? Kneel. Otherwise, today will be the last day you see the sun. Ellison couldn't take it any longer. This is your last warning. Get out of the restaurant now. He was ready to use magic at any moment. The knight, oblivious to the danger, angrily swung his sword. Looks like there's an action movie coming out soon. Just before the knight almost lost his head for his foolishness, a voice rang out. Stop. What are these idiots doing? Who ordered you to do this? It turned out to be someone Ellison knew. Deputy Commander Drenched. Please forgive our rudeness. It's been a long time. Sir Ellison. Afterward, the foolish knights were punished by being made to kneel. Hands in the air, outside the restaurant. I sincerely apologize on behalf of my men. I had ordered them to keep an eye out in case you left again. But I didn't expect them to act like this. Ellison, not one to hold grudges, said, All right, it's okay. Your men are very loyal. How long has it been? Drenched replied that it had been 5 years. Being called a Grand Mage made Ellison a little uncomfortable since he had left the army long ago. Drenched recalled the past. I haven't forgotten that day. Not even for a moment. When the 3rd Regiment was surrounded and nearly wiped out due to my poor command. Grand Mage Ellison broke through the encirclement alone and turned the tide. Ellison smiled. That's because the regiment held its formation to the end. You did that because you fought with everything you had. Even risking your life. Drenched. And since then, you kept refusing the reward and wanted to accept punishment. Please, don't do that anymore. Recalling this, Drenched felt a bit embarrassed. Of course, a knight must live and die with honor. At that time, I couldn't believe that a criminal could receive a reward, not knowing that my wife was suffering in extreme poverty because of the war. When I heard, it felt like being slapped in the face. I only thought about my own honor. A knight who couldn't even protect the one he loved. The tense atmosphere was suddenly broken by Drenched. But then I found out that Grand Mage Ellison had secretly sent the reward money I refused to my wife. I can't express how grateful I was to you. I struggled to think of a way to repay you. Here, what can I do to help Grand Mage Ellison? You have already left the army. Then, when I heard you were opening a restaurant, I suddenly had an idea. Let's get rid of all the restaurants in Grake except for this one. Then Grand Mage Ellison's restaurant will become the greatest in Grake. It's a perfect plan. Ellison was stunned after hearing this. Are you out of your mind? And with that, Drenched drew his sword and rushed off to carry out his foolish idea. Truly beyond saving. Elsewhere, Porgo was very worried about Crown Prince Leon's decision to dine at a strange restaurant. Currently, they didn't have an escort with them, and it would be dangerous if anything happened. But Leon didn't care at all. At this moment, countless arrows were shot straight at Leon, but all were blocked by magic. This is precisely why Leon was so confident. The presence of Grand Mage Medron could overwhelm almost anything. Then the assassins revealed themselves. Hand over the prince. If you do, we'll let the others go. But they would pay dearly with their lives for facing Grand Mage Medron. Amid screams and cries, the assassins were completely buried under the rubble. Crown Prince Leon, without a scratch, remarked, such overwhelming power. Seeing the heavily eroded mountain range ahead, Leon praised, so this is the Empire's strongest mage. With you here, even dragons are not a concern. Medron chuckled softly, saying he flattered her. Surprisingly, one assassin survived being buried under the rocks and had enough strength left to gasp. Medron is a monster. Crown Prince Leon, with a friendly smile but poisonous words, said, enough. They'll only repeat the same thing over and over again. So this is my order. Leave no one alive. After Medron's, as you command. Another landslide occurred. The surviving assassin didn't even have time for last words before meeting his fate. Diren thought to himself, what's happening in front of me is truly extraordinary. It seems the rumors are true. Only one mage in the Empire can single-handedly face an entire army. This Grand Mage Medron is a level 7 mage. Conveniently, she cleared the path, and the prince could proceed. Meanwhile, at Ellison's restaurant, he was talking to Drenched about a bad habit he had. He wanted to know what it was. Whenever I get excited, I rush forward without looking around. Dariant admitted honestly. I wonder why a knowledgeable person like you would do that? It reminds me of the old days. Doesn't it? Allison smiled, but he used magic to tie up Dariant, leaving him stuck with his head in the ground and his rear end in the air. Blood rushing to Dariant's head made him realize many things. Allison was reconsidering his friendship with this guy. After Dariant shouted, "I'll handle that," Allison finally allowed him to return to his original position. His head was back in the fresh air above, no longer breathing dirt. "Oh God, I'm alive," Allison loudly criticized Dariant while the soldiers asked, "Who was that brash guy just now? Who did he point his sword at? How could I know that when I was not alert? We accidentally poked the dragon's den?" Over here, Dariant was honestly confessing. He had intended to repay Allison by going to each restaurant and spreading rumors that their food contained bugs. Wow, this guy is quite creative. But his creativity is used in the wrong place. Dariant was embarrassed and apologized, promising to find another way to repay the favor. At that moment, Dariant saw something that startled him and immediately ordered the knights to stand at attention. The Crown Prince approached. Seeing Dariant, the Crown Prince immediately recognized an acquaintance and assessed that this was no ordinary restaurant. Dariant knelt on the ground to greet. "Your Highness, I'm deeply sorry. I heard you would be staying with Count Grake until the evening. I was planning to, but then I heard about an excellent restaurant, so I decided to check it out for myself. And, of course, I'm not alone." The Crown Prince introduced his attentive entourage. Dariant seemed uneasy to see Medren here. Crown Prince Leon turned to warmly greet Allison. Allison greeted him back, but thought to himself, "The Empire's Crown Prince is coming here? So that's why the Order of the Origin Knights is in Grake. And the woman behind the Crown Prince is a familiar face that I don't like. Wait, this uniform is an old royal mage uniform, isn't it?" Prince Leon's sharp eyes quickly noticed Allison's attire. "So, you served in the mage corps, right? I see you still wear the uniform," he observed. "I wore this because it's comfortable, even though I retired from service a while ago," Allison replied. Leon was delighted to discover Allison was a mage. "In that case, you must have heard of Medren over there. A grand mage of the 7th rank. If you've served before, you must have heard of her, right?" Leon enthusiastically introduced his favorite subordinate. Before Allison could respond, Leon called out loudly, "Medren, come over here for a moment. Your subordinate is here." "Oh, come on, why did he have to call her over?" Allison thought. Duke Porgo, annoyed, remarked, "This is such a waste of time. In this tiny restaurant, Medren, the prince is calling you." Medren had already heard but was too scared to respond. Her fearful expression gave away her terror as she stared at Allison standing in front of her. She got even more nervous when her comrades urged her forward. It wasn't until Porgo called her name a second time that Medren reacted. But she was still speechless. "Are you too tired from before? Go see and meet him," the Duke reminded her. Medren apologized and dismounted from her horse, removing her helmet and approaching the prince. Leon enthusiastically introduced her. "This person here was also a mage. Do you know him?" Medren, sweating nervously, stammered. She recalled the incident when she first met Allison and had to compose herself. "If I make a mistake, everyone here will get buried along with me," she thought fearfully. At that moment, Allison smiled. "This is my first time meeting you. I'm Elle." Although it seemed like a simple greeting, this was the warning sign that Allison gave to Medren. She quickly responded accordingly. "I'm Medren. It's my first time meeting you too." Leon was disappointed to realize they were strangers, missing the fact that Medren was putting all her effort into deciphering Allison's intentions. Since he was pretending not to know her, he didn't want any trouble. She had to act as naturally as possible. Even if it meant being slightly rude, she would surely be forgiven. Thinking that, she pulled out all her acting skills. "We will be hosting a banquet for the prince in this restaurant. It is a great honor for any chef. So, can you please prepare a splendid meal right away?" Allison gave her a dark look but agreed to her request. Miltine, working in the meadow, was also interested. Now that the royal family was involved, she couldn't help but wonder who Allison really was. Leon was praising the restaurant's interior, finding it cleaner than expected. Allison replied with a smile. I didn't expect such esteemed guests to visit, so the reception might not be perfect. I hope you can forgive me. Leon laughed heartily, telling Allison not to worry. The most important thing in a restaurant is the taste of the food. But since the situation had arisen so suddenly, Leon asked, Can I confirm once more? The restaurant serves dishes that can surprise even the crown prince? He was enthusiastic. The heir to Count Grake was very confident in his choice. So, my expectations are high. Allison looked down at the spotless yellow-headed leopard sitting there gingerly. So this guy brought me trouble here? Allison seemed to understand this damn situation. He deeply felt that his peaceful life after demobilization was in danger. If the royal family came, Allison would have to return to politics on the battlefield to quell the rebellion. For him, this is very troublesome and time-consuming. With Count Grake gravely ill and bedridden, the situation in Grake was unstable. He must have come to me for help because he couldn't withstand the pressure of the power struggle. Especially from this old man, Duke Porgo, known as one of the trio of power in the royal court. Eyed Diren while holding a dinner knife. I hope this isn't a way for you to delay your answer. Crown Prince Leon were on the same side as Duke Porgo. Half-jokingly, the prince said, Look at the man over there. Prepare a feast for him. We have a lot to do tonight. Allison knew he couldn't let this go on any longer. Just then, the crown prince came up with an idea. Little Grake, we trusted you and traveled to this distant restaurant. So, shouldn't you trust us in return? Diren didn't immediately understand what the crown prince meant. Let's make a bet, Leon said, smiling but emanating a dark aura. Can this restaurant serve a dish that will satisfy me? If you lose, you'll have to walk naked around Grake. My God, does this guy have a twisted fetish? He must, Diren thought. Young Grake was pale, startled by the prince's condition. Still, Leon laughed and said, If you truly trust this restaurant, you have nothing to fear. Allison smiled dangerously and said he would prepare a dish that would satisfy the prince. He thought both the crown prince and Duke Tamura needed to understand who could lay hands on Grake. The crown prince eagerly proposed the bet, a dish to satisfy the prince. Does it exist? The guests must have tasted countless delicacies from the empire. Allison brought out the starter. This is mushroom soup, light and flavorful to stimulate your palate. The crown prince seemed quite enthusiastic upon seeing the mushroom soup. Allison knew it would be difficult to please a guest with food. Leon praised. It smells nice, and the flavor is rich. Controlling the temperature perfectly enhances the mushroom flavor. But this isn't enough to satisfy me. I've had plenty of mushroom soup like this before. Duke Porgo, while wiping his mouth, agreed with the crown prince. Allison smiled kindly. I'd also like to hear feedback from other guests. From someone who can't refuse your request. Medren nervously opened the mushroom soup pot, finding a message on the surface. Give a fiery review. Seeing this, Medren began to sweat. She took a spoonful and then burst into exaggerated acting. Oh, this flavor. Medren banged on the table. What a wonderful soup. The flavor and texture are the ultimate taste experience. It feels like mushrooms are growing in my stomach. This is like a level 7 culinary magic. No, level 9. It's level 9. Medren's exaggerated display left Duke Porgo and Crown Prince Leon stunned. Diren was also surprised, but only Allison knew the whole story. So he was trying to contain his laughter. Blushing, Medren continued, So, would you please try this dish again? It's truly delicious. She felt so embarrassed that she'd rather meet Hades or Satan than stay in this situation. Leon was startled and reluctantly said, Since she praised it so much, I'll taste it again. Medren, your expressions are more lively than I expected. Diren also confirmed that the soup was delicious. If it weren't for this occasion, I'd have asked for another bowl. However, Medren's reaction seemed to be about more than just the flavor of the soup. As a high-ranking mage in the royal court, she must have had this kind of soup before. Why would she suddenly praise it now? The prince and duke finished eating and shared their thoughts. I see. What else is there? Who would dare make a level 7 Archmage do this? Could it be the restaurant owner? Their reaction seemed plausible. Ellison covered his mouth and smiled. I'll prepare the next dish. Then, Leon still said, I've tried it again, but I don't see much difference from the soup in the palace. Duke Porgo agreed. I didn't expect you to like mushroom soup so much. I'll definitely add it to the diet menu when we return to the palace. Medren, startled, quickly said, the food here is special, and showed how to finish the soup in one go for everyone. Once the bowl was empty, another message appeared at the bottom. Go to the back of the restaurant when you're done. She immediately spit out the soup she had just put in her mouth. Choking and coughing loudly. If I had known, I wouldn't have finished this bowl of soup. Medren thought. Leon saw that the situation was wrong and asked Porgo in a low voice. It seems like she's not normally like that. Waiting for her choking to finish, Medren walked out to the meeting place with Ellison and saw him standing on the balcony looking into the distance. Medren tiptoed around without daring to come close. So she decided to stand far away and talk. Did you call me? A rainbow barrier appeared. Medren immediately knew it was soundproofing magic. Ellison turned around with a harmless smile. Long time no see. Medren, your comments on the soup were excellent. Although Ellison complimented her, Medren felt as if she was being reprimanded. She stammered, but he continued, you shouldn't have done that. Ellison still kept his smile, but the aura around him radiated a formidable force. I'm glad to see you. But last time I warned you clearly that I don't want to see you again. Medren quickly responded, I swear, I really didn't know you were here. Ellison narrowed his eyes and asked why she had come here. Medren explained that she was just following the orders of Duke Tamora, who was traveling through the territories to expand his influence in the royal court. It's not about Duke Tamora. I'm talking about the crown prince. Hearing this, Medren broke out in a cold sweat. Ellison, even in a remote place, knew Crown Prince Leon's reputation was truly bad. It is said that he is notorious for being morally depraved, not only desiring women and power but also being insensitive and only caring about his own pleasures. I still believe that to be true until today. Ellison sighed, but he only pretends to oppose power while knowing how to take advantage of his position. He is threatening the son of Count Grake as if it were a game, while using his reputation as a cover. To me, Duke Tamora's desire to take over the city of Grake is only a small step in a larger plan. Medren bit her lip to the point of almost tearing it. But Ellison continued, what is the Crown Prince's ultimate goal? That's what I'm asking. I can't say. Please don't make me reveal it. Even if my mouth were torn open, I still can't divulge it. Oh, so you still won't talk even if your mouth is slit? Let's see if that's true. Rurin exuded a dark aura. Advancing towards her, Medren knelt down on the ground, thinking in pain, I want to go home. There are only cannibalistic demons here. Of course, she couldn't go home. Medren returned to the dining table with a pale face, making the crown prince and the duke worried. She tried to calm herself by patting her chest and made up a random excuse that she was just savoring the taste of the soup. Hearing this, the crown prince sighed. The soup, huh? It's quite surprising to find it in a restaurant in a place like this. Maybe even Grake is silently optimistic about this bet. Of course, the crown prince wouldn't let it go that easily. He snapped his fingers, turned to ask Duke Tamora, what are the conditions for this bet again? It's to serve a dish that could satisfy the prince, right? Leon smiled wickedly. What should I do now? Today, I'm not in the mood for surprises. Normally, this soup alone would be enough to satisfy me. His intention to cause trouble was as clear as day, making Diren furious. Yet the crown prince continued to smile. But today, we have an important bet, don't we? After laughing, he felt light-headed, so he held his head to rest for 2 seconds before pressing Diren again. You're not a fool, so you must understand what this means, right? Leon coldly said. Even if your seriously ill father stands up and invites me to a grand feast, I still won't be satisfied. But if I hear the answer that you've been delaying in Grake, my mood might change. So, what do you say? Can you answer now? Diren clenched his fists and said, a count must be responsible for his people. I can bear personal humiliation, but I can't put the lives of the people in danger just to avoid some temporary shame. And above all, I believe in this restaurant. Let's continue the bet, and if I lose, I will walk around Grake naked. Determined. Huh, kid? But this is definitely not the answer that the Crown Prince wanted to hear. I hope you won't regret your faith. In the sunset, Ellison brought the main course. Seeing the smile on his lips, the Crown Prince Leon could see absolute confidence. Ellison also said, "This dish is significant, so you definitely have to be confident." He lifted the lid, revealing a smoking block of earth. Duke Porgo asked, "What is that?" Ellison calmly replied that it was a grilled mud slab. Porgo clearly showed his disdain. "Mud? Are you really serving us mud now? Are you sure you want us to eat this?" Ellison picked up a hammer and nonchalantly responded, "Of course not." He decisively struck the hammer down, causing the mud block to shatter, revealing the leaves inside, leaving the prince astonished. Unwrapping the leaves, the whole palanque chicken was golden brown. This dish was learned from a guild. In Earth terms, it's called clay-baked chicken. Leon wondered how Ellison got this meat. And Ellison cheerfully replied, "Usually, we don't serve this kind of meat. But we save it for our most esteemed guests." Explain. Clay-grilled chicken, also known as clay-baked chicken, is a delicious dish with a meticulous cooking process in East Asia. Popular in Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. After being cleaned, the chicken is seasoned with local spices inside its cavity, then wrapped with lotus leaves or other local leaves. Finally, it's coated in clay and baked. This cooking method gives the chicken a unique flavor, rarely found elsewhere. Just thinking about it is enough to make one's mouth water. Being hungry and having to edit all the food is like torture. Ellison helped them carve the chicken, all the while saying, "At first glance, this dish just looks like a worthless block of mud." Those who don't know might point and ask, "What is this?" It can hide its true self once, twice, even 3 times. While speaking, Ellison cut the meat and placed it on Leon's plate. He smiled warmly, but that's only because the chefs haven't truly understood the dish's essence. Once the outer mud layer is broken, the delicious palanque meat inside is revealed. And everyone's reaction will be, "Hee hee." The prince very much wanted to know who this guy was insinuating about. Ellison turned his back to them, holding a broken piece of clay in his hand, leisurely remarking, "Oh, nothing. This dish is just like a deep scheme to eliminate the nobility and consolidate royal power." Acting like a fool, just like the crown prince. Damn, he dare say this. Ellison made everyone's faces freeze. Everyone with an expression of horror. Yet Ellison acted as if nothing had happened, coldly breaking the clay in his hand and saying, "Of course, just like this dish, even if it breaks, it still holds its true value inside. Right, Prince?" The situation turned around so quickly that it was hard to believe. Let's talk about the current situation of the Empire. The Empire has been weakened by the war with the Dragon Tribe. The king is loosely controlling the realm, which has led to counts openly expanding their influence in their territories. Ellison held the broken clay and stroked his chin, reasoning like the famous detective Conan. The king's power has hit rock bottom. In the middle of such a situation, the crown prince has to find a way to survive. Ellison, despite being in hiding, knows everything, as if he's living under someone's bed. He placed the broken piece of clay on the table and said, "So the most reasonable way is to give up power." The crown prince, struck in his guilty conscience, froze, breaking out in a cold sweat, imagining his future predicament. "Look at me, I don't crave power or anything. I'm completely harmless. Just leave me alone with wine and women." This was the crown prince's intention. Exactly what he had done. A clever ploy to prepare for his grand schemes in the future. This tactic has also been frequently employed by prominent figures throughout history when they hadn't yet secured power but found themselves in the crosshairs of other factions. Under the scrutiny of others, Leon is completely immersed in beauties and wine. Facing Ellison's revelations, the prince sat still, like a child waiting for judgment. Ellison casually said, "All the above is just my guess." Meanwhile, Duke Porgo looked at him with dangerous eyes. "Are you crazy? Do you understand what you're babbling about?" Ellison turned his back to them, calmly saying, Be patient and listen a little longer, the most surprising part is yet to come. The truth is that the prince's actions are just a charade. The prince is secretly preparing every step to counter the nobles, aiming to regain the lost royal power. Not sure how much of it was true, but the prince trembled as if he had a stroke. Ellison smirked. What will happen if this plan is exposed? The assassination plots so far are just child's play. Duke Porgo slammed the table, calling out, Dariant. Dariant immediately burst through the door. Deputy Leader Dariant is ready for orders. Porgo looked at Ellison as if he would be quartered immediately if he uttered another word. He said, It's an interesting thought, but don't you understand the current situation? This restaurant will be wiped out today, including its owner. Dariant was extremely worried, not knowing what trouble Lord Ellison had caused that was this serious. What? You plan to silence me? Do you think it's that easy? Ellison chuckled. This old man is truly a fool. El could take on all 10 of those dragons and he even ate the Dragon King's heart. These primal soldiers are nothing. Truly, the deaf do not fear the gun. Porgo saw Ellison's constant mocking and was furious. He said, You have a sharp tongue. Porgo, enraged, continued to mobilize the available resources. Medrin, make him kneel now. Help, can I log out of this conversation? Boo-hoo? Medrin was trembling. She was terrified, biting her lips. Make him kneel, please, for the love of God. Don't provoke him any further. She thought. She stammered. I can't do it. Porgo had no idea, but Medrin knew all too well how terrifying Ellison could be. Despite signaling the warning so clearly, her comrades couldn't understand, and now a disaster was about to descend. Porgo was shocked. What are you saying? Unbelievable. Ellison didn't bother hiding his mocking smile anymore and said bluntly, Medrin is the wisest. Medrin giving up didn't mean Porgo would let it slide. He was so angry that his facial features twisted. How dare you, Knights of the Origin, I order you to behead this man now. Before the Knights of the Origin could raise the white flag and lose face. At the critical moment, the prince pierced a piece of chicken and put it in his mouth. He bit into it and used his hand to tear the chicken drumstick apart, causing such a commotion that the other 3 could only stare. Leon laughed so hard he couldn't see the sun. This dish is super delicious. What are you all still doing? Hurry and try it. He is watching you. Porgo stammered. Prince, I'm sorry, but in the current situation. The prince pounded the table, shouting, Sit down and eat. It seems all those years of Leon playing dumb weren't in vain. He actually understands reason quite well. Looks like this crown prince's vision isn't so ordinary after all. Porgo gulped nervously and sat down to cut the chicken and eat it. How is it? Leon asked. It's delicious, Porgo replied. Are you satisfied? Porgo was stunned for a moment before reluctantly nodding. Yes. Finally, the old man managed to get on the same wavelength as his comrade. Seeing that everything had calmed down, Prince Leon decisively declared, It seems that the result has been decided. I have lost, and it would be a lie to say that I'm not satisfied with such a wonderful dish. He spoke while wiping his mouth. Congratulations to the heir of Count Grake. You've won the bet. Diran, suddenly praised, was startled but quickly expressed his gratitude. Prince Leon stood up and spoke to Ellison. Thank you for the wonderful meal. We will leave immediately now. Ellison courteously replied, It was an honor, but didn't you say you wanted to hear the answer from Mr. Grake? The prince donned his cloak. I was planning to stay here for another day because I have an appointment with some ladies. However, I believe I've already heard Mr. Grake's answer. He sighed and assured, There won't be any more trouble. Gather all the Knights of the Origin, we're heading back to the capital. Finally, those troublesome guests left. Ellison immediately relaxed, wiping the sweat from his forehead and said, Phew, it seems everything is fine now. Fortunately, we won the bet. What a bunch of lies. You're the main character. They're lucky you didn't rip them to shreds. Diran forced a smile. He felt happy but couldn't fully grasp the situation and how Ellison managed to pull it off. Ellison smiled kindly. You don't need to understand it yet. All I can tell you is that as long as I'm here, you don't have to worry about things like this. Diran wanted to say more, But Ellison cut him off. Now that the troublesome guests have left, you can slowly enjoy the grilled palinque. You mentioned wanting to try it earlier, didn't you? Oh, right. I'll enjoy it for sure. Your earlier statement was impressive. A count must bear responsibility. Diran blushed at the compliment. Ellison handed him a chicken leg. Eat up and grow strong. Outside, the prince's entourage returned in silence. Both Duke Porgo and Medrin kept their heads down without saying a word. The prince suddenly spoke up. Medrin, is that chef the one you mentioned before?